Man. I really want to like this. I was actually kind of excited for this. I'm not happy. I'm really not happy about this. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I do know what to say, but oh man, am I disappointed. So, Eternals is the latest movie in the MCU. It's directed by Chloe Zhao, and it stars a whole bunch of people, including Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, Kit Harington, Richard Madden, Camille Nanjiani, Brian Tyree Henry, Gemma Chan. And it's about a group of beings known as Eternals who fight these creatures known as Deviants. They've been fighting them for centuries. They've been here for thousands and thousands of years. And they are in tasked to only fight Deviants. They couldn't get involved with Thanos or anything. And so when Deviants come back into the modern world, they have to reunite and fight the Deviants once and for all and hopefully end their reign of terror once and for all. So I was looking forward to this for the most part. The cast sounded really interesting. Chloe Zhao is an up-and-coming director, especially after winning her Oscar earlier this year. And the trailers looked all right. I didn't think they were that great, but they looked all right. And they definitely gave a different vibe to the MCU. A movie that's not nearly as... I wouldn't say as funny, but it's a little more serious, and it's a lot more artistic, and it's just not what you'd expect from an MCU movie, but oh well. And I was kind of intrigued by that for the most part. It's okay, because, Marvel over the past few years has been just kind of chugging along and just doing the same thing over and over again. And so now we have this movie, which is actually very different, and the reviews were concerning. At first, they were just mixed to positive, and then they kind of just started becoming more negative. And I usually don't put stock into Rotten Tomatoes anymore, but the fact that pretty much every MCU movie, including Thor: The Dark World, has a positive tomato, and this doesn't, that was concerning. And I've noticed that a lot of people are complaining about how different this movie is. But then again, we've just been complaining that Marvel's been just doing all these movies just the same as every other movie in the MCU, and they're just all the same. Nothing really changes. And here's a movie that changes everything in the MCU, and they hate it. Are we just addicted to hating things? It just doesn't make sense. So I went to this movie. I kind of tried to avoid, reading any of the reviews in depth. I tried to avoid, really, learning too much about this movie before seeing it. And, again, I am very disappointed in this movie. I am shocked that I was so disappointed. I wanted to be that one person who was I actually really enjoyed this. I think this is really cool. I think this is a lot of fun. I do think it's very interesting. I do think it's a nice take on the genre. And it's just not interesting. It's just kind of dull. It's just not... The problem with this movie is not that it's entirely different, but there's a whole ton of problems, but I'll get to them. I'll start with the things I like. I try to start with the things I like. And the things I do like in this movie. One, this movie is visually stunning. One of the best looking Marvel movies visually. I do think the visuals are impressive. They kind of remind me a lot of 2001 a bit. And they kind of did from the trailer too. But when you see their ship, that was really cool. And you get to see a lot of their powers. That was a lot of fun. Kind of see Angelina Jolie creates weapons. Richard Madden has I-beams. Lauren Ridloff, she runs around. I thought that was really cool. And a lot of the action scenes are really cool too. A lot of the ones, they kind of flash back to some of their missions in the past, and a lot of those are really cool. And their action scenes here are fine as well. In the present, at least, they're fine. They're just not as interesting as the ones in the past, unfortunately. Again, I do like the range of, the diversity of the cast and diversity of their powers. I thought that was really good. And I do really like a lot of the interesting conversations they have about humanity in this movie, which you kind of wouldn't expect from an MCU movie, but... it talks about, the horrible things that humans do and the good things that humans do, and they try to balance that out, and I do think that is really interesting to talk about for this type of movie. And some of the performances in this movie are really good, too. I really like Brian Tyree Henry's character, Lauren Ridloff's character, Barry Keoghan's character, I thought he was really good, too. Leah McHugh, I thought her character was really good. She was the girl who looked like a child. I thought her character was really cool. Lauren Ridloff, again, I thought she was really good, and she's also the first deaf superhero. Her character's also deaf, they communicate with her through sign language, and I thought she was really good, too. Brian Tyree Henry, I thought he was he was kind of the soul of this movie. I don't know about that, but it's like, I really liked his performance. I really liked his character a lot. Also, Harish Patel, he's not one of the Eternals, but he's with Kumail Nanjiani throughout this movie. And I thought he was really funny. It's like, he's kind of like, he's not in the movie much, but he was there right at the right amount. Also, Kit Harington, I thought he was pretty good for his small role. And this one's kind of like in the middle, and that kind of will lead to my negative about this movie, but Kumail Nanjiani. Now, I thought like a lot of his scenes, like when he's talking, I thought that was really good, but I was just disappointed in his lack of like action scenes. I was disappointed in a lot of the powers, besides like, Angelina Jolie, Lauren Ridloff, Richard Madden. I was disappointed in some of the powers, and I was like disappointed by Kumail Nanjiani the most in this movie, unfortunately. I thought he was really funny, but I just thought he was underused, unfortunately. Now let's get into what I really didn't like about this movie. I mentioned some of the performances are really good. Some of them are not. Kumail Nanjiani, I felt disappointed by his character towards the end of the movie. Also, I was kind of disappointed that it feels like they sidelined Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek throughout this movie. I was just not impressed by their performances whatsoever. And Richard Madden, I also thought he was kind of disappointing too. I thought he was kind of a blank slate throughout the entire movie. Like, you definitely know how he's feeling, but by his face, you can't really tell what he's feeling because he's just a blank slate throughout the entire thing. You wouldn't think he was on Game of Thrones or anything like that. So, and also, I didn't really care for Gemma Chan in this movie. I didn't understand, why she was so important to this movie. I mean, they kind of just say why she's really important, but I just never really felt that. Also, the last Eternal, Don Lee, no reason whatsoever why he had to be there. He had no character whatsoever. And I thought they were all really disappointing. Also, this movie has way too much exposition. The reason why this movie's over 2.5 hours is because there's so much exposition. Oh my god. Even in the beginning, there's an opening crawl that it's just nothing but, it's just exposition. It's just backstory. It's just not that interesting to me right now. Oh god, it's kind of dull actually. And also, there's way too many metaphors. There's a lot of, metaphors to Greek gods, and there's a lot of metaphors to religion. Even the religious metaphors really got me in this movie. Oh my god. Even the opening crawl that I just mentioned, it actually starts the phrase, in the beginning. And I'm like, oh god, this is what we're getting into. Oh god. And there's so many references. There's a reference to Noah. There's a reference to how God created the universe. And they even quote scripture at one point where it's the truth will set you free. I'm like, oh god, stop already. Stop. Also, I thought the tone was just very uneven throughout this entire movie. Now, I know a lot of people complain about, Marvel's just tonally uneven for the most part. This may be the most uneven of all the movies, because it takes itself pretty seriously for the most part, and so when there's a comedy bit in there, it kind of feels odd for the most part. There's Kumail Nanjiani gets a few laughs. Some of the characters do get a chuckle every now and then, but it just kind of feels uneven for the most part. It's oh, am I supposed to laugh now? Okay. I don't feel like it, because this is a serious scene. It just didn't work. And there's just way too much going on through this entire movie. I kind of forgot about a lot of things that happened in this movie before the end. It's oh right, that was a thing. But no, we just forgot about it. Also, some moments in this movie just don't make any sense. Obviously, this is a spoiler-free review. I'm going to try to do a spoiler video probably on Sunday. But, man, I was just really disappointed in this movie. I just feel this is not the worst MCU movie by any means. I still think Thor 2 is the worst. But I just feel this may be the most disappointing of all of them. I just felt this movie was supposed to really kickstart the whole, a new phase in Marvel. And yet, it just may be one of their biggest letdowns, unfortunately. So even though this movie's visually amazing, the action's awesome, and, there's a nice diversity of characters and their powers and such, and there's some good performances, and there's some interesting conversations about humanity, and even though I do how they handle a lot of how it basically is not really an MCU movie, and yet it is an MCU movie at the same time, that one's kind of just uneven for me. I just feel like way too much going on, way too many metaphors, way too much exposition, and I felt like a lot of the characters were just very underutilized. And I feel like Eternals probably would have worked if it was a Disney Plus show, to be honest. You could explore a lot more. You could have a lot more of these characters, and maybe it would feel a lot more satisfying if it wasn't a 2.5 hour movie. Maybe it was like a 10-hour series, or a 10-hour movie, if you will. But, man, I'm just really disappointed in Eternals. I'm going to give Eternals, for right now, I'm giving it 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. Man, am I let down by this. I'm sad now. Really am. So, what is your least favorite movie in the MCU? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and... man, damn it.